All
think
right.
yeah, no sniffles.
I can
No.
handle that.
All right, here's the deal today. We're talking CWL Dallas, baby.
How
You
can
know,
we not?
they jam-packed 3 days of matches into 2 days. Joe, how tired are you from working those days, huh?
Yeah.
Tell me.
This is probably the most. Okay, so first of all, shout out to the whole team. Thank you all for sticking with us. We appreciate it. A lot of the team you guys might not even know, but the week before we had a Gears of War event as well. So we lived in Dallas. The whole esports world is moving there. We might as well figure we camped there for 2
See
weeks.
what it's like.
Yeah, yeah. We just had to test the waters. But honestly, everybody did one hell of a job. Circumstances were unfortunate, but I'm glad everybody's safe. But we did it. I am exhausted. I was literally falling asleep today at my desk. Don't tell my boss. But anyways, yeah, man, it was a hell of an event. I had a ton of fun. Um, every single game was just great to watch. You obviously had the veto system in place. That meta is creating. But the fact that it just happened in 2 days was pretty much incredible. So yeah, I'm super happy with how everything finished and what a finish it was.
I was just super stoked to see this game on land finally. I think the tournament ran amazingly considering the circumstances. So many matches. The grind throughout open bracket was intense for a lot of teams. Props to all of MLG staff, like you said before. And, man, it's some crazy days, I'm sure, on the talent side of it as well. So,
Yeah.
just props overall to everyone involved with that. So, safety first. We got done with the event. Got finished a little bit later than usual. But, man, TK taking it was a big shock to me.
Absolutely, and I mean, if you watch our previous episodes, I was one of the guys who was a doubter, and I figured, you know what, if they got T6, I'd be on the train.
Yeah.
And they won. So that doubt is gone. They are a legit contender now, hopefully for the
Yeah.
entire year. Obviously, if you looked at our last year first event winner in Rise, they sort of after that point dropped off, but I don't think there's like a gun or a specialist that you can really point to and say, all right, without this, like, this team will be bad, like we sort of had with the
Yeah.
OSA meta last year.
Right.
Because honestly, I mean, Kenny and accuracy, even Chino, like they all performed, I think, well, but the teamwork of TK is what really showed. Like, they were all on the same page. They were steps ahead of teams on certain maps, like Forest, which we could talk about.
Yep. We'll get into that. Yep.
Yeah, Forest, S&D, and Hardpoint, like they were just steps ahead of every other team. They put the work in and it paid off. That plain and simple.
Yeah, crazy stuff overall. I just want to ask, what's your opinion on the game on LAN after watching a tournament? Do you think it's slow? Do you think it's faster than you thought? What are your overall thoughts?
I thought it was fast, man.
Yeah, it seemed super fast from
Seemed
what I was
super
expecting.
fast. Like I just think of like London Docks, like CTF, and like scores were super
Dude,
high.
Maniacs.
Yeah.
Three subs fly. I loved it.
Yeah. And you heard that at the event, like after Saturday, people are like, "Holy shit! Like this is a three sub meta," you
Yeah.
know. So 3 subs, 1 AR, which a lot of teams are doing. Obviously, on the bigger maps, there are still some 2 FGs, but people were playing at a much faster pace with the PPSHs. So, which is a little surprising, but there's always sort of that factor, and I think you and I can speak to that sometimes, especially early on in the game just plays different on land. It's just what it is. Sometimes a gun, or a strategy that you have on a certain map going into it, you just have to change everything because it just doesn't work on land. And sometimes there are some circumstances that you just didn't see coming, and you have to make those adjustments.
Yeah, for sure. I had a lot of fun watching it overall. Man, the time to kill in the FG is nuts at times, but it's such a clunky gun as well. So I feel like teams were trying to figure out what that balance was, but I think TK did the best with that. Well, Splice as well had both those two teams that were in the final had a very similar play style and relied heavily on Forest to get them through the tournaments, trying to TK avoided docks throughout the whole tournament, and then Splice went sort of back and forth. So it was interesting to see how those top two teams use vetoes to their advantage, and I think just caught teams off guard a little bit with how fast that they were playing. So definitely cool to see. speak on that, chat. What you guys think of the tournament overall? What did you guys think of the game on land? Did the seeing the same maps a lot of times, was it boring for you guys? I thought it was a pretty decent balance for the most part. There was those series where you're getting 3 London docks or 3 forests in a row, so I can understand from a viewer perspective how that could get boring after a while. But it seemed like even though they were playing the same maps a lot, teams had way different strategies than one another on it. So I feel like it made it seem fresh enough each time I saw it. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams too. I think it'll change. I mean, I think a lot of teams were just playing to their strengths a lot more, trying to be comfortable. Like again, the Forest Hardpoint S&D against TK, teams kept allowing that to happen, and we can talk about that. They didn't try to change anything up on them. I think as time goes on, there's going to be a bit more of a meta, but we'll see what happens with the vetoes, because I mean at the end of the day, it is what it is. Like, we have as many maps. I think in our, in all 3 game types, I think we use 5 out of the 9 maps. Obviously, you have Texas and Flag Tower only available in 1, but Forest is in everything. Docks London is in everything. St. Marie's in 2. So it's a bit hard. I mean, I think even without the vetoes, you would see most of the same things, right? Like, obviously, I think the most variety we saw was CTF, which I expected coming into this event.
Definitely.
But either way, I think you would see a lot of the same maps, because that's just the map set that we have right now.
I'll be the one to say it. People were talking some crap on CTF before the tournament, but was it as slow as everyone thought? Not by any means. A lot of these CTF games are 3, 4, 5 flags at times. Teams just pouring it on. I was really happy to see that teams were using their streaks quite well on CTF to snowball it and get multiple flags back to back. I think a lot of teams use that CTF veto quite well. Like FaZe, for example, they went 7-0 or 8-0 on Ardennes CTF, so that was really cool to see. And I think we saw just overall great CTF games.
Absolutely. I mean, I think Ardennes was, the slowest one.
Yeah, of course.
But that's just due to the size. But as soon as it got crazy, it got crazy. Like, people were relaying or counter caps. Streaks obviously play a huge part on that map just due to the sheer size of it. So there was a lot of action. Like, I remember seeing, some 5 to 6 crazy Ardennes Forest games. So it can spiral out very quickly on that map.
Right.
But I think, especially when you talk about finals, the deeper into the tournament, people don't want to make mistakes. And that's the one map that's sort of, okay, you can play a little bit safer, do the spawns. But London, if you play too safe, well, 2 flags, 3 flags are going to get ran on you, so you can't. So yeah, man, I enjoyed CTF a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And then just one more thing I wanted to touch on before we get into the pools and sort of break down what happened in the tournament and give our thoughts on some of the matches is I think streaks need to be tweaked. You and I have talked about this before, with them just seeming to be a little bit too easy to get at times. The fighter pilot being the one that needs to be tweaked in terms of points. It just seemed like everyone had one at any given moment on either side, whether whoever was winning got the lead at the start. Whoever capped the flag or whoever got the first hardpoint win seemed to have a streak going into it and just sort of snowballed that momentum for the rest of the map. So I just feel like things need to be changed on that regard to make it a little bit more competitive. But overall, it makes it exciting. So I see why people might like that too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think what last year's was, right? You had the Scarab at 350 or 400, right?
Yeah.
Then it was 750 for the missile, and then 850 from bombardment. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that. Again, I think in a pub player's hands with the fighter pilot, they don't always get 3 to 4 kills,
right? Because
it does require some aim, and I don't think they're always going to choose the right flight path, because you do have to pick that. There is a meta in that sense. A lot of the 3 to 4 pieces are spawn kills, or they're breaking hills. Pro players know where these guys are setting up. And they know the pass to fly it. Glide bomb, I don't think had a huge impact.
I think glide bomb
that's 650. Yeah. I think fighter pilot, I would love to see at 750, maybe 800. Because artillery is 850, right? And
yeah,
I mean it has its purpose. But Glide Bomb's good for one or two. But yeah, I don't think Glide Bomb really needs to be touched, but definitely Fighter Pilot.
Completely agree. All right. Now that we've touched on some of the stuff, precursor before we get into these pools, we'll throw this up here and go from pool to pool, talk about some of the open bracket teams that made it into pools and sort of go from there. So surprising stuff overall, coming from the open bracket. And, a couple teams that we expected made it in as well. So throw up the graphic right there. Joe, what was your most exciting pool for you?
Most exciting had to have been Pool D for me.
Yeah.
Obviously, just the 5 teams that were in it: Splice, United, FaZe, EG, Ghost Gaming. Really, only disappointment there was Ghost. I'm sure we'll get to that. I think the Echo Fox one was also pretty entertaining, but the other ones went as planned. But yeah, so the 4 teams: Echo Fox, FaZe, Next Threat, Allegiance. Just diving in deeper in those, I think the 2 we thought, like Echo Fox and FaZe, those were just easier guesses.
Yeah.
Some teams that didn't make it, like Lightning Pandas, they obviously lost to Next Threat. Like that was twice, actually, because they actually played in bracket as well. That was a bit surprising. Allegiance was one of those teams. That's what we talked about. They've done it before, but it seems like every time they get to the pools, they don't know how to, A, close out games, and B, it just seems like the talent isn't there. They just can't keep up with these guys. But it's good to see, again, these guys are sticking together. They're making the deep open bracket runs, which are tough because a lot of people can't do it, and they've done it multiple times now. So while of course they only won one match in pool play, props to those guys. And then Next Threat, which I think is a big surprise to a lot of people. I saw a lot of people apologizing to Doug, but Doug did it. I think a lot of that was due to their pickup of Nagafin and Methods. And the team looked really great, man. Their search and destroy was on point as we expected with Ricky and Nagafin.
Yep.
So I was super happy for those guys.
I was so happy. They proved me wrong, to be honest. I didn't think Methods and Naga would be as big of a factor as they were throughout the tournament. For them, Methods, every time I swear I looked at a Hardpoint scoreboard, he had like 30-something kills, just putting on some sick slang. So I think he individually needs to get a lot of props for how far he was able to get them, albeit not the best placing ever. But I didn't even expect them to even break the top 24. So the fact that they did make it a decent while, make it into groups, and get some experience under their belt in World War II, finally playing against top competition, definitely good for them. Lightning Pandas, very lackluster for me. I thought this was going to be a team that would be in that 9 to 12 range and break into the top 8 somewhat easily from what we saw online. So I don't want to call them an online team just yet, but they are traditionally players that have performed pretty well online throughout the past years. So a bit shocking to see them there. And then Ghost Gaming. What the hell happened, bro? Are they the online team? They looked so damn good, consistent from 2K to 2K. They show up here, just get smoked.
And the fact is, they won one map in pools.
Yeah.
And do you know what that one map was? They were down 0-5 at S&D and won 6-5. Like that's the map they win.
Unreal.
I have no idea. I don't know. To me, I know Spacely had a really bad Saturday. I know a lot of people gave him a lot of flack, but that's just what seems to happen. This team relies on either Spacely or Lamayad playing well. I know Mox played extremely well. I know people are giving him a lot of props on Reddit, and this is a guy who we know and thought was just gonna, continue to be an absolute beast when you watch his gameplay. So props to him. Someone just put in the chat he had like a 1.12 KD overall throughout the event. So like he's playing well. But the rest of the 3, I would imagine Lacefield probably played pretty well. But it's just the other 2, right? Like someone had to step up, and there was just no third person.
Yeah, just very, very tough run at things for them. EG not really having the best go at things either. Ended up getting a very, very bad finish overall, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. Speaking on some TK winning their pool C, crazy stuff. They got kind of blessed, man, especially when the delay happened. They were mid-series. They were literally about to lose a 4th map hardpoint to, I believe it was Red Reserve, and basically got to replay that map and ended up winning it. So you give them props because they handled business, due to the circumstances, but whatever it was, things were on TK's side throughout the weekend. It ended up, working out for them, and then complete props that they're able to run with that momentum and take the championship. Really cool to see them do that, but definitely swung things in their favor for sure in pools, allowing them to gain momentum.
Well, the thing is, right, if they get second, they play Optic round 1,
yeah.
and that's like a huge test. So, yeah, it's a very unfortunate situation. Sometimes there's other things that just get in the way, and it does suck, but they still bounce back. They got second in their pools.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's very
crazy.
It's crazy to think about if something goes the other way. Yeah, I mean – Josh just DM'd me. He says, do you think the tournament would have been different for TK if they finished second in our group and played Optic round 1? I guess we go to that question now. I don't know, because they handled business playing Optic. They did. And I don't think that the maps would have changed at all. Again, I think you would have probably seen Forest Hardpoint and Forest S&D again. Maybe in Forest CTF. I don't know. Forest is that's where TK lives. That's what I said on broadcast. I don't know. That's their home.
Yeah.
So
very good at it.
Yeah, I think they probably. I don't know, man. That's so tough to say.
You never know.
What did Optic and Red go? It was a 3-1.
3-1. Yeah, Red took Hardpoint. Optic took next 3. So
yeah,
who knows, man?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
It could have definitely gone differently, and then or TK goes to losers.
Yeah.
Who knows? Again, if Optic typically has troubles, it's typically in the first or second rounds of winners. After that, they typically handle their business and win tournaments. Could TK actually have made that losers bracket run? Again, what we watched, their team put together, probably like they just seemed on point. Like they seemed to understand the game more than any other team. And you can tell that's why they're champions. So I think they could have handled, Optic in round 1, but that is a great question.
Yeah, for sure. Just no one can really control those circumstances. Regardless, TK handled. I don't want to take anything away from them. That's the whole point of this. But man, it's some crazy stuff, and momentum is a huge thing in anything competitive. TK ran away with it, and sure enough, won the tournaments. Just speaking on some of the other teams scattered throughout the pool play, I thought Ground Zero looked pretty damn good. Studdy and Haggy looked right in their comfort zone, back on boots, on land. Some somewhat inconsistent performances from the S&D kids on their team. But hey, I think that's a great first showing for them. Just throwing up the final finishes there, 9 through 12 for a team like that. I'm happy with that, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, they lose 3-0 to Ground Zero or to Splice. Then they go to losers, and do they beat a team or do they lose right away? I think they lose to Envy right away. I think they lost to Envy right away. But I mean, yeah, it was a great showing. They survived pools, which I think was big for them. I would have liked them to at least win one. As soon as they got the bracket, they lost to two teams. The Envy match was super close. I know, again, it was like sort of the same thing. I think when it was like 2-2 in their series, there was that other incident Sunday, so they had to pick up Game 5 just right off the break, which, again, it sucks, but it is what it is. So, I mean, I don't know, because that Game 5 loss to Envy, honestly, I think you have it written down here, but Envy's another team. I was expecting more from them. Yeah. I mean, they still finished 7th, 8th, but I was expecting more, especially in pool play. I thought they were going to get out. But yeah, in Ground Zero, I think they were pretty good.
Yeah, speaking on Envy a little bit, it just seems like Classic and Hook were just kind of average. And if I had to pick two people that I thought would maybe step up a little bit more on a LAN setting with all this stuff on the line, it'd probably be those two players. Temp and Slash are going to be consistent with just sort of their play style. I was just surprised to see, I guess, mostly Classic not, be as strong as he has been,
Yeah, I feel really bad for Slasher. The games I was watching, he was incredible. I know Donnie had some clutches, but I think Hook too. I think Hook's still getting comfortable. I don't think his Saturday performance was as good as he wanted, and I think he knows as well. There's a lot of people watching him. There is pressure on him. Again, this Envy team, they won a world championship. They got in the finals last year. Like, there are a lot of people watching this team. This was what Slasher wanted. But yeah, I agree. Pretty disappointed in Classic. He's a guy who you and I have both talked up time and time again, but is the switch to boots, is that really affecting
it's
him?
A little early to say, but man, it looked a little bit rough in this first
Yeah,
one.
because that's the thing. Like Hook, you have sort of have not an excuse, but you could say like this guy's still transitioning.
Of
Like
course.
just give it time. As long as they make pro league, like they're gonna he's gonna continue to get better,
Right.
and just get into that motion again, that Call of Duty movement. And Classic, on the other hand, kind of worries me.
Yeah. Other than that, pools went pretty much as expected, to be quite honest, from some of our predictions. I guess the big shocker was Echo Fox making it and taking second in that pool, so it was cool for them to really step it up and see what they can do. And then before we move on to the actual bracket, talking about FaZe, man, what a grueling open bracket that not only them but several other teams had to make it to, but they had the longest run and ended up getting top 4. Absolutely crazy stuff from them. I'm glad they proved me wrong. I knew they'd.
Yep.
I honestly, before this event, thought they'd be in the 9 to 12 range. So the fact that they proved me wrong so far, it really brought it together. And dude, how stoked were you for Reap? What an event!
I was pumped.
Oh,
I mean,
the retirement home,
well.
baby. Oh,
Yeah,
baby.
dude.
He was absolutely shredding with an AR. It was so cool for him to see. I feel like he brings a good amount of leadership, but it's not like an overpowering leadership. I feel like all 4 guys on these teams, have their input at any given moment. They're a really well-balanced team. Priest still looked really good with the AR as well. So I wasn't really sure who was going to step up and be that consistent second or possibly third AR, but the fact that Reap and Priesta, 2 people not traditionally strong AR players or just AR players in general, proved me wrong. Strong ARs, they did so damn well, and their CTF, absolutely beautiful to watch.
Well, I think what helps, and we talked about it, if the land meta goes more SMGs, I think that helps this team.
Oh, of
right?
course.
Like, Attach and Zuma are like, yes, let's
Yeah.
get it. Like, I
Uh-huh.
am so happy right now. Even if they have to go to 3, and Priest has to pull one out. I mean, that's what he sort of, his aggressiveness last year and his ability with that submachine gun was what propelled him to get onto this roster. So, heck, that's I mean, I don't really know what to say. You even said you would predict them 9 through 12. I think that's a lot higher than what most people predicted them.
Oh, for
Tyler.
sure.
Like most people didn't even think they were going to get out of open.
Yep.
So I think even your prediction at 9 through 12 wasn't a horrible one. I
Generous.
probably would have put them in. Again, I just think them getting out of open was a huge momentum shift. And you heard them talking about it, playing more games, and this is what we talked about early on in a tournament just helps out. And then they go into a very tough pool in Pool D. They almost get out. They lose some very close games. I think that helps them mature more and more. So, again, I think just the way that the tournament was almost sort of ran, like how quickly they just had to play all of their matches, it probably ended up helping them out in the long run.
Oh, for sure. And to show such consistency from game type to game type. Their search is really good. CTF, obviously, didn't have any issues on that. Really, really awesome performance from them. So, yeah, I think that's it for pools. I guess the last team we didn't really touch on too much that made it out, I guess, in Pool D was E United. Pretty solid performance from them. But let's talk about them as we move into the bracket. Let's throw up this graphic here.
Okay.
Bang. All right, so out of pools, we see Optic Gaming, Red Reserve, Ground Zero, Splice, TK, Echo Fox, E United, Luminosity Gaming. Once again, shout out to COD Gamepedia for these nice graphics I stole from their Twitter account. Go give them a follow because I just straight ripped it off their profile. So yeah, let's talk about these winner round 1 matchups. Let's see, the Optic Red Reserve one was pretty straightforward. Optic Gaming lost a Hardpoint, which I guess is the most surprising there. Splice handles business. Splice, very, very impressive throughout the tournament, taking out Ground Zero in a quick 3-0 fashion. TK over Echo Fox and E United over LG, which I guess is the biggest shock here in the round 1s.
Yeah, so I guess we'll start with Optic Red Reserve. If you watch that game, like I said going into this, either this was going to be a 3-0 or a game 5. Like I still do have a lot of respect for Red. I think that's a very quality E roster. They're still number 2 in EU. Again, the 4 guys on that team, they have what it takes to win. They just haven't put it all together yet. If you watched map 1, you saw Joe playing extremely well on that London Docks hardpoint, but you could tell by the second half of that game that Optic was heating up, and they almost made that comeback. And from that point on, it was just all Optic. It just felt like game, that was the first match of the day. Optic was still getting into the rhythm of things, and they propelled after that hardpoint. I mean, they just played so darn well, and you're like, all right, this is the Optic Gaming we know. From For Red Reserve, obviously a very tough matchup. I just think in terms of talent and slaying wise, I think Rated played pretty well.
Yeah.
Didn't really see the 0 we expected. Joe again was game one. I wasn't able to watch too much of Josh. I know Josh is in here, but I just didn't get to see too much of their gameplay. But again, I still think it was a pretty solid performance for them.
Yeah, I was a little bit afraid for Optic losing that first hardpoint because their search throughout pools was horrendous, to be quite honest. So got a little bit scary. The fact that Optic was able to step up and close out those last 3 maps was pretty impressive in itself. Ground Zero, I think it's just versus Splice. It was just a mismatch, to be quite honest. Splice is on a mission this year, especially back on boots. This roster is going to be fantastic throughout the whole year, in my opinion. So there really wasn't much to talk about, in my opinion. The speed that Splice was playing at, we touched on it earlier, it's just it's hard for teams to handle.
I think it just comes down to experience and just the veterans on the team. I think the more events that you get from Blastful and Ferocities, the better you'll see them. I was at the player meeting. I couldn't even tell you what they looked like, right? Dude, this is their first event. The fact that they were able to get to this point was great for them. And every match they play against these better teams, they'll learn and they'll make adjustments and they'll continue to get better and better. But I think Splice was just too much for them to handle.
Yeah, for sure. And then speaking on the TK over Echo Fox, this is actually one series I didn't get a good look at, just being busy throughout the event and stuff like that. So do you have any highlights from this one?
I'm trying to think. There are so many games. They're all just mashed into my head.
So much to process.
I believe this is the match that they played Gibraltar, and I think TK ended up winning it. And there was a pretty crazy spawn that I think helped TK out a lot. I'm trying to think. But anyways, I believe this is where we saw Gibraltar, and I think we saw TK win this one. Mm-hmm. And that just showed me that, again, TK was the well-rounded, the most prepared. They weren't afraid to play other games and other teams on their maps. I honestly couldn't tell you.
Gotcha.
Yeah, sorry.
We're going to breeze over that one. Sorry, chat. We're going to move on.
No, yeah, I know the Hardpoints were really close. Assault's in here. So there we go. 228 point Hardpoints, 6-5 S&D.
Oh, wow. So super close series then. Crazy.
Yeah, that's how it was. I remember the Gibraltar. That's the one thing that sticks out to me.
I think I actually saw the ending of that one too. It's pretty crazy. Mm-hmm. So super close series. Damn, 3-1. Absolutely brutal. Moving on to the last one of the round ones in the winner bracket here. We got E United over LG, and I was, obviously E United is an extremely strong team, but I thought, especially after the first hard point I saw from LG in this matchup, I thought they were just going to run away with it, going to be an easy 3-0, but LG smokes them first hard point. And I was like, all right, well, this series is over. You look back, and sure enough, E United just clutches up and plays extremely well on the next 3 maps. Takes it somewhat comfortably. I rewatched the VOD today, and they just made it look somewhat easy in the next 3 maps. RCD's hitting some crazy snipes on Texas, making this ETF. I think they won it 5-2, 5-1, something like that on the docks. And then the last hard point, St. Marie, just handling business. I'm going to critique Clay. He's going to be the one I'm looking at on these hard points, running that third sub. And I'm going to be very critical of him. But I think he did quite well with it.
Yeah. I mean, again, when you if you go back and watch E United CTF, he was the guy sneaking and pushing forward, always having the most deaths on his team.
Just weird.
He was trying to make so many plays, and again, we've touched on this. I don't know if that's because he thinks he has to do too much right now. I'm not exactly sure because I think, the first guy in for United is Pristini. But yeah, back to the match. You're right. I watched that Luminosity United game 1. I was like, all right, well, this is the Luminosity we expected. And then, I don't know, E United, I don't know if Luminosity was all right, we got this in the bag GG after game 1, but I have no idea what happened. They just
where to go? Where to go?
The switch, and E United won the game 3-1. So the Luminosity is a team we could talk about later because they obviously didn't go too deep in the losers bracket. But E United, a great showing from them. And again, when they get things going, it goes so well for E United. But Other times it doesn't.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that's going to do it for the round 1 matchups, and then we moved on to the semis. Both of these were absolutely insane matches with Optic Splice and TK United going down to the wire. A very clutch map 5 from both Optic and TK to make it to the winners final, and holy crap, both of these series were just extremely fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Splice won games 1 and 3, right?
Yeah.
Like, didn't they like dominated them too, or they played them extremely well? Because I remember Splice won that London Dock CTF, and I was like, okay, wait a second, like what is going on here? They sort of gave Optic a taste of their own medicine, just very fast pace, high scoring London Dock CTF. But I mean, game 5, and I just remember one round, I think it was like 4-5 or 5-3. Splice have the lead. It's like a 2v2 or 3v2 situation for Splice, and Crim just absolutely dominates a gunfight against Vance.
Yeah, he choked so hard, man.
Yeah, I think it was a 2v2, and they had the bomb down. They needed everything they had to do, and Vance just over-challenged for 1 second, and Crim just made him pay.
Is crazy. I still have no idea how Crim is able to win a gunfight like that, but regardless. And then speaking on the other side too, same sort of thing. TK hitting some crazy snipes through smoke on USS Texas just to get the advantage in a lot of rounds, and it was a lot of fun to see all the sniper plays that we saw throughout the weekend on Texas in specific, whether it's through smoke or just in general, just crazy shots.
Yeah, and I think Texas was a map I thought for sure was going to get vetoed a lot, but it ended up being one that was played in all sorts of different situations, and I think you sort of saw the power of it, like what it can bring. There's a lot of different variations. You obviously have people who are trying to control bottom middle. You have sort of nade setups for that A-bomb, and then you have the sniper rifle play, and I think a lot of people just enjoy it. And I mean, yeah, TK, I just remember it was like RCs versus Theory. Like whoever got the first blood was sort of winning those rounds.
I enjoyed watching Texas overall.
It was the most played S&D map, says JP.
Oh,
yeah, like that's crazy to me.
Wow.
So that's, again, I think a lot of people had its doubts because, I mean, a lot of people talk crap on it, but people play it.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I'd say it's like the most coin flip map, if you want to call one of them that, is St. Marie for sure.
Yep.
Just like, it's crazy. Just timing your nades appropriately. There's a lot more, randomness that can happen on St. Marie, but also like the line of sights are cut off a lot of times on Texas. So it was just cool to see. And I had no idea that it was the most played map at the tournament. Texas was. So, wow.
That's crazy to me. Yeah.
Crazy.
All right. So yeah, TKE United. I mean, that was a super close game 5 as well. I mean, like you hit the nail on the head. Like these winter semis matches were incredible to watch.
For sure. And then we get to the winter final.
Yep.
Where the green wall got smoked real bad and real fast. What were your thoughts on the TK 3-0?
I mean, I guess going into that, you're just thinking Optics surviving. They're going to do it again. They're clutching up when they need to. Like Crim pulls off a crazy game 5 win. Like they should have lost that. Like how many times have we talked about like Optic clutching up when they needed to?
Yep.
And after that, they just excel and they don't lose the tournament from that point. But this was a very different side that we saw. I mean, they just got destroyed, and I think we saw the strengths of TK, especially on Forest. I mean, because they played Forest Hardpoint, Forest S&D.
Yep.
Do you remember what game 3 was for the winners final?
Flak Tower, I think.
Right. Okay.
I think it was Flak Tower.
Yeah, so yes, it was, because that was the first time we saw Optic play it.
Yep.
And I thought that TK played the veto system pretty well, like very well. I remember the Forest Hardpoint. I don't remember if it might have been the Splice game where Optic got destroyed, but this one might have been a bit closer. But
it was closer.
Again, you just
saw actually dropped like 47 kills or something.
That's
crazy.
What it was.
Yep.
Yeah, actually had like his best game. Chino played it really well. Theory and Kenny really didn't play as well on that map, but the other ones where they stepped up, I mean, they just handled business.
Yeah, for sure. And then Streaks was just sort of the issue the entire tournament for Optic. That just, I don't know if it was a combination of over-challenging, feeding off of rotation, just whatever it was. Every single game type, every single map, Optic was just so worried about a bomb being dropped on them. So that was the common occurrence in the last 2 matches of their tournament. and teams just completely taking advantage. And surprisingly, an individual player on the other team would just give Optic such a tough time.
Yeah. So here's a question for you, T. So versus Splice, Optic get destroyed on Ardennes Hardpoint. Going into this series, do you think they should have switched up their veto process after knowing how successful TK? Like, this is for the winners final.
Yep.
Obviously, going to the final, I think 100% they should have switched up their vetoes, especially how successful they were at St. Marie. I think they were undefeated on it. They might have not. Yeah, like. So do you think after that Splice game, that's when you switch it up? Or did you think, okay, we had a bad game versus Splice, let's stick with this game?
I didn't really mind sticking to the hard point because things, I feel like they would have figured things out on that regard. The flak tower, that's a bad decision because that's something you haven't played throughout the whole tournament
at all.
You got smoked from Splice. You know why? They're running 3 subs, right? It just the pace of the game was a completely another level. So on the hard point choice, I understand they wanted to keep playing the same maps that they were, had been playing the entire time. The flak pick, though, interesting to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, it's just got to be sheer confidence, right?
Oh,
like,
of course.
To that point, these guys are world champions. They've won all these events. They're looking at who they're playing in winners finals, a team that hasn't been there in a very long time. And let's say, all right, let's just play them gun on gun, because that's what really Flag Tower is you get those middle kills, you attack the base, you pick up those clutch kills, and you get the flag out. And TK just seemed a step ahead on that map. And that could have been because, Opti hadn't played it at all that tournament.
Yeah, and it's ego picks. You hit it on the head there. I think it was purely them trying to prove it to themselves that they were good enough on the map. And it's just a situation. It's such a hindsight thing, right? It's like they could have played the same maps and ran them over, and it's like, okay, well, their ego paid off, right? But it didn't work, so then it comes off really, really horribly. It's like, well, if you look at the stats and you look at all the things outside, it's obvious that TK was the better team on that specific map. So.
And I think if you just go back and watch that series, I think Krim had his worst series.
They took turns having a rough one.
Yeah, I think Formal played extremely well on the S&D because he was opening up a lot with the snipes. But I think it was it Krim and Karma who were just kind of not playing as well as they were. Maybe even Satu. I don't know. But I specifically remember Krim on that the Flag Tower CTF. So I don't know if he just wasn't comfortable because this is a guy coming into that round, the winners final, who was playing the best for them, and he just clutched up a super important round. The match before. So it was just an off series for him, which doesn't happen too often.
Yeah, completely agree. All right, it's time for the loser bracket.
It's a big one.
Big old loser bracket. So yeah, these are somewhat updated. Obviously, FaZe was the team that ended up making it to the top 4, where they finally got taken out. But for the most part, this is complete open bracket from top 24 all the way over towards the top 4. Crazy stuff overall. And if you had to pick one team that surprised, or a couple of teams that surprised you the most in this loser bracket, who'd you pick?
Let's see. I think Mind Freak's number 1. I think
100%.
You 100% go out and say Mind Freak. I think again, Lightning Pandas 3-0 Ghost. That was a very big deal. That was a big win for Lightning Pandas. Obviously, they go on to lose the next threat, which I didn't think was going to happen because, again, Lightning Pandas lost the next threat in the best of 3. I was literally over at that station when they were about to set up for a game 5, and I think it was Exotic, and he was talking crap to Methods, and he's like, "You're screwed now. We have a best of 5." So I was like, "Oh shit! What's gonna happen now?" He's definitely right. It's very tough to beat a team twice in a tournament. It just really is. There's a lot of adjustments that can be made. So I think Next Threat played pretty well. There wasn't too many teams who went on runs like we typically see. Besides really Mind Freak, I think they beat Sinister, which is ex-Rogue. They beat EG in a game 5, which we could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah,
and then they beat Epsilon, and then they almost beat Echo Fox. That went to a game 5, which I think they should have beat Echo Fox as well. I remember watching that. I think it was 5-2, in game 5. I think it was St. Marie, I think. And they ended Echo Fox came back and won. So
crazy.
They could have been top 8. I mean, Mind Freak went on a run after a horrendous Saturday, a very bad Saturday. They just showed up on Sunday. It was just like a completely different game for them.
It's cool to see, and the fact that they probably should have, gotten to that top 8 spot is very, very impressive. Definitely proved both of us wrong because our predictions for them going into this one was probably around that top 24, top 20 range. So they break in, they get to the 9 through 12, kind of choke that match versus Echo Fox. Cool to see the Australians stepping it up. Other than that, Envy just, I guess the one thing you can talk about on the Envy side is, clutch game 5s. They had a lot of them throughout the tournament. Beat Next Threat in a game 5, Ground Zero in a game 5, and multiple situations where they had to clutch up. They did it, so that's a saving grace for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember, like, I was around the side station when they were talking to one another, and it's like, dude, like, we're getting so many kills and hardpoints, but we're not winning them. Like, something is wrong. So I'm not sure exactly what was happening, if people just weren't playing around the objective, because I remember watching a lot of games this weekend, Tyler, where, people were running around with 2 or 3 subs, and they were just nading and trying to flood hills and just trying to contest as much as possible. And it seemed like Envy was almost trying to do the opposite, where they were setting up, getting a ton of kills, and that was happening to them. Like, they were losing games they shouldn't have.
Right.
So maybe just some adjustments to make there. But, all right, Tyler, the one thing we haven't touched on yet, Evil Geniuses, top 20.
Sheesh.
They go up 2-0 against Mind Freak. And this could have been their run. Like, if they beat Mind Freak, then they play Epsilon, who they probably beat, and then they play Echo Fox. And remember, like, Mind Freak went game 5 with Echo Fox. Like, then they could have beat them. Like, then they could have played Luminosity, who Echo Fox 3-0'd. Like, this was EG's opportunity. Those losers round 2 and 3, Mind Freak and Epsilon, it could have been them on that Sunday making an incredible run. Instead, they get reverse swept 6-0'd game 5.
Yep. That's just the definition of number 1 throwing and losing full, getting 6-0'd on the last map. How do you just throw that stuff away? I mean, props to Mind Freak, don't get me wrong, but if EG and Mind Freak played 10 times, you expect EG to win probably 6 or 7 of those, almost no problem. So the fact that they had that lead, threw it away, is this what's going to happen? You talked about, if they don't have a solid start to the year, things are going to go bad quickly, and this is a team where they have a lot of talent on it when you're talking about roster changes. So these teams that are, a bubble situation might look to this team to get a roster change like Apathy or, something like that.
Well, and here's the thing, too. The day before, they didn't look horrible. I mean, they beat Splice. They had a very close game against United. They beat Ghosts. They did get 3-0'd by FaZe, which was pretty surprising. But every single game was close. And, again, they beat Splice in game 5. So, I mean, this was super surprising. I thought this was their time to go on a run. But I think I know we've talked about it, and a lot of people were like sort of doubting what we were saying. Like, a lot of people were saying, not just us, but when things are going to go bad on this team, they're going to go bad. There's too much there's too much ego on this team. Everybody wants to be the leader. Everybody wants to make the right shot call. So I don't know, man. I can easily see this team, somebody leaving, or something needs to change. I think I was talking to like Pat and Ian, and it just seems like they weren't arguing with one another. Like, there was none of that.
Yeah.
But it seemed like when they would talk about things, people weren't doing it. Like, people weren't making the changes, and I think that's where the ego comes in.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, I don't have to change what I have to do because I'm playing well type thing, or I think I'm making the right call. So I don't know, man. I'm not sure if this team just needs more time. I think Pat played pretty well in S&D and in CTF especially. I think Hardpoint is really where they struggled, and you wouldn't think that because this team has a lot of slaying power. I thought if this team was going to struggle, it was going to be Search and Destroy.
Yeah.
And they obviously did lose some game 5s, but I thought their slaying power would help propel them enough, especially in Hardpoints.
Definitely. But you saw the teams that had a lot of success here at Dallas where they play at a high momentum, and but besides Apathy, who else on this team plays fast?
Yeah.
They don't really have anyone else.
Yeah. That was the thing. I know a lot of people were giving Nameless flack, but the reason is he's the second sub.
Yeah.
And when we've known Ant, when Ant was on my envy team and he was playing well, like Ant was that slow AR. Like
Yep.
he was playing, we were playing around him. So if I had to make an adjustment, and I don't know if it's going to happen, I would still love to see Pat be the secondary submachine gun player.
Same.
I don't know if it'll ever happen, but I don't know, man. We'll see what happens. They're just in a super tough spot now. I mean, top 20. They weren't doing very well coming into it. They had some very close 2K losses. And even that we had a preview of it. Like the online 2Ks, they were losing game 5s to teams. So
yep.
Who knows what's going to happen with these guys. They're going to have to put together an incredible run at New Orleans.
Just a weird situation. The fact that they didn't get a better result here was very shocking. Let's pull up this loser bracket one more time. Any other thing that sticks out crazy to you?
Luminosity, I think, losing 3-0 to Echo Fox. I think them finishing 7th, 8th was nobody predicted that. I thought for sure they were a lock at like top 4 at least. So while they are 7th, 8th, and they had number 2 or 3 seed coming into this tournament, they're still safe for Pro League. But just a very disappointing day. And they got crushed by Echo Fox as well.
Yeah,
Echo Fox handled business. Let's see. Again, Red, after losing winners round 1, they came down and lost right away. And that's what I was saying on broadcast. You see this happen quite often. Same thing happened with Ground Zero, where those teams who lose winners round 1, they just sort of tilt. And that's what I think is going to be sort of the thing with Red, right? Like, you have some pretty tilty players. Like, look at Trey last year and the streaks that he went on when he was consistent. How good was Splice last year? But when Trey didn't seem to be in the game, or he let outside distractions sort of get to him, that's when Splice, and they knew it too, they made a roster change. So we'll see if Red Reserve can become a much more stable team.
Definitely. I have high hopes for Red Reserve. I think they'll be just fine. They're a couple things going different in pool play, like we touched on before, and that they're in a completely different bracket. Everything's totally different. So wouldn't be surprised if they are in that top 8 range in the next tournament. So last thing I guess we can touch on is obviously FaZe with one of the craziest runs we've seen in a long time, getting all the way up through that loser bracket. They finished 3rd in the pool, just cruising their way to that top 4, and then finally met the force of Splice to shut them down. So pretty crazy stuff. We touched on FaZe already, so I guess we could touch on Splice's composure, I guess. Losing a crazy close series to Optic Gaming in the winner's semifinal, and the fact that they were able to turn it around and keep that consistent play style, because I think Splice should have beat Optic
the first time
multiple times in that first series. They completely outplayed the side of Optic. Their strategies seemed better. Their pace was so much faster. The teamwork just seemed so on point, and the fact that Tommy was a superstar, an absolute superstar.
Absolutely.
And you've said this in previous shows before. He's had a rough year, especially throughout the last year. So I'm sure it just feels great for him to be back at that top level, playing the way that he was. Just so many clutch plays from him, and the pace that Jordan and Bance were playing at, the way that they were finding information on Search and Destroy, jiggle peeking, just making the game. Watching from the other team's perspective, it just looks so damn annoying to play against them, and I just wanted to give them a lot of props.
Yeah, I mean, I do as well. And to the Tommy situation, it would just be like, I mean, this guy knows the opportunity he got, right? Like, he had a very slow year last year, not the year he wanted. He took a chance on young talent last year. I don't think it went horribly, but for the guy that he is, it didn't go the way he wanted. Yeah. Especially the year before, with Millennium, when they win stage 1 and 2 in Europe. So he was winning just a year before that. So yeah, I mean, like this would be like, hey, we're getting complexity back together. Like, you would play 20 hours a day. Like,
oh yeah, 100%.
Like, this dude knows the opportunity that he was given, and he didn't want to sort of let those guys down, and I don't think he did at all. So they have a very close game with FaZe going to a game 5, and then they rematch Optic, and they took care of business against Optic. Man, they 3-0'd them. And this was the first time in how long where Optic lost 6 maps in a row.
Absolutely crazy.
I couldn't even tell you. And I think there was like a recon, like the last recon episode. It's just like that you heard the players talk about it, like they don't really know what happened. Something just turned off. But yeah, man, it was a great run by Splice. Like those were some very tough teams.
Yeah, OG getting 6-0 to lose the tournament was a shock to, I'm sure, everyone. It just seemed like they just got cold all of a sudden, getting outslayed. Just the pace of Optic seemed to slow down a lot, and I think that speaks towards Splice's ability to adapt. Them losing that first series, I think they learned a lot from that series of what they needed to change if they did play them again. Sure enough, they handled business somewhat easily. So cool to see them step it up.
Do you know if maps changed from the first Splice series to the second?
It was same maps, I believe.
Same maps?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's very interesting to me. Like, obviously,
it's ego picks.
Won.
It's ego picks. They're trying to prove something to themselves.
Yeah.
Especially when the downward spiral started. It's just it's like I said before. It's a hindsight thing. Do they make the adaptation on those maps because they have so many reps on them at this point, or are they just bad at it, getting outclassed, and then you make a change?
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. But
so it was Forest Hardpoint. Then it was, what was the S&D? Was it Forest S&D?
I believe so. Yes.
And then it was London Dock CTF again.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the overtime one too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ay. That is one you go back and watch if you are an Optic player.
Yep.
Like that's just miscommunication and not being in that situation in a while. Like they get 4 dead. Tommy spawns up, instantly hits the OE, gets the underground. All 4 players are in Optic space. They clear it out. All 4 of them leave, and nobody picks up the OE. Like, if you're gonna do that, at least play like 1D. Like I think that's just a bit of not being used to boots on the ground again and playing those leads.
Definitely. Well, and like you get the 4 dead. The only route they can take is underground. You can watch that from middle gate. You can watch that from your spawn. It's just it's surprising that they had the map in complete control and they let something silly like that happen. And you get
and there was only 90
seconds. Yeah,
90 seconds. Like someone's playing D. I don't care if it's me, but I'm just sitting there.
Of course.
So yeah, a very that's a big mistake, and you go back and watch and you fix it, and it never happens again. Like that's just a thing that won't happen again.
Yeah.
And then you have the fighter pilot called in by Formal, and I think that was just miscommunication because Karma was still in the Splice's base. He could have made a play. It would have been an absolute hero play. Like it was still very tough. Like I think there was 3 guys. One of the guy gets picked up by the fighter pilot. Mm-hmm. The guy with the flag, just goes for it. Yeah. I think Damon just didn't want to get shot by the fighter pilot. Like that would have been the worst way to go out, was a team kill.
He was weak from the previous gunfight that got him into fire too. So if he jumps out right away, he probably just dies to the flag runner. It's like, damn.
Yeah, it's very tough. Yeah. But if he pulls that off, well, that would have been a hell of a play. But again, Splice 3-0 him, and it was ridiculous. Damon was given a call out that the flag was being ran down low, says Jared. So maybe some just miscommunication right there between Optic. But again, the whole situation, I don't think you see Optic make that mistake again. It
was crazy too. Like as soon as Optic switched to more subs, they started doing a lot better on that map in specific. So I think it's just a matter of adapting to things a little bit faster and. Maybe you got to change things up a little bit more. I think they're just used to the sort of style that they played on the Jetpack games. Maybe it's going to take a little while for them to adjust accordingly and play at the pace that they want to play at consistently.
Yeah, and then we have the final, Splice versus TK. I don't think anybody picked this to be the matchup. I think you could have said one person would have, or some people would have said Splice would have made it to the final. I think you probably would have said, maybe some people would have said TK made it to the final, but I don't think you would have said that Splice and TK would have both made it.
I definitely would have not put money on that bet for the final.
No way. No way.
But hey, it was a good final.
It was awesome. Yeah, it was great. Again, a lot of back and forth from both of the teams. It goes to a game 5. I can't lie. I was having it was like 1 a.m. at this point, and everybody in production, including myself. As soon as the reverse sweep was kind of on, I was like, no, do not let this happen. Like, please, we cannot go to a second best of 5. I am ready for bed. But yeah, I mean, it goes all the way to a game 5. It was a great matchup.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like all players on really both teams just had moments of such greatness throughout the entire tournament. TK obviously stepping it up. Accuracy earns that MVP at the end, and it's really cool to see Lamar really step it up to that next level. He just had a huge last couple of rounds at the tournament. I thought Kenny had a fantastic event overall. He was the player that I was, had my eyes on. He was playing extremely well online. Definitely brought that over to LAN as well, and just a well-rounded performance.
I don't even know if you remember again. Like, my brain is gone. What were the 5 maps again? Like, do you remember like game 1, like what the order was for them?
Chat, what was? I don't know. I don't remember.
There were so many games. I'm gonna go to the stream really quick. Let's see the VOD. I'm gonna just open it up. I gotta know.
So much info to process into.
Game 5 was Forest, right?
Pretty sure.
Or am I remembering that? I'm gonna have chat answer this. Call of Duty. CWL Dallas. Splice versus TK. All right.
I think it was St. Marie.
So St. Marie, Hardpoint, Ardennes 4 Search.
Okay.
CTF, Ardennes, Hardpoint Ardennes, St. Marie, S&D. All right. So did TK win the first game? They must have, right? It was 2-0 TK?
Yeah.
So Kenny was an absolute beast game 1. All right, I'm remembering this. I'm skipping through this now. But yeah, I mean, Kenny was really the turning point for them. He goes on like an 11 streak. He gets full streaks. He completely turns the game around. Accuracy played incredibly well.
See the one before?
That was the one before. Yeah, Unreal. I mean, Splice was up like 230 to 190 on Winery, and then TK gets a scrap time. They go to the parking lot. That's when Kenny, just finishes out. Like, he goes like 36 and 25, I think. So he had an incredible game. Second game was the Ardennes Forest, like S&D, where actually he picks up the one before. So just a lot of mistakes from Splice, which we don't technically see. Trying to think. Then Ardennes, CTF. I don't even remember this one either. I'm skipping through. It was... Oh, this was like the last minute cap. It was a really slow game, and then I think Splice gets like the last minute fly cap. So that's what I remember on that one. Yep, it was 1-0. And then Forest, Splice actually beats them on that map, and that was the first time that TK lost that game. So again, everybody was thinking, all right, Splice is going to do this, and then game 5, which I think was St. Marie, I think we just said, but both the Hardpoints were super close. But yeah, I think TK just ran away with it. I mean, they were up 3-0. Splice started to make a comeback. He got to like 4-3, and then TK just took care of business the next 2 rounds. So again, TK playing extremely well. I think Kenny performed probably the best for TK on the Hardpoints, but accuracy was super clutch in the S&Ds when they needed him. But yeah, it was just an overall, sort of great, performance from TK. And again, I have to give them props because coming into this event, I would not think that they were going to win it.
Oh, for sure. And then I feel like Theory is the perfect, leader for this squad. It's sort of like a random team when you think about it, like in terms of a roster. But I feel like Theory performed quite well, hit some crazy clutch snipes on multiple search and destroys, picking up where he left off on boots in general. So really cool to see him have a good one. Chino and Accuracy, just dominant AR play. And then Kenny is that fast sub where I feel like a lot of teams are going to learn from that and start adopting, like having one of your sub players just kind of fly around like a maniac and drop as many kills as possible. So definitely TK and Splice, to be honest, setting the meta on certain maps.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the big thing is, right, when I was watching TK, like a lot of these guys, especially in search, they were looking at Chino to make these play calls, and you could tell they had specific strats. Like they just seemed they had the stun meta down. They were setting up stun rushes, like a lot of things that they were doing other teams, I don't even think were thinking about, or if they were, they weren't thinking about it on the level that TK was. So again, I just think the preparation coming into this tournament, you have to give to TK. Their vetoes weren't weak at all. No part of their gameplay was weak, and I don't know the sort of prep, but the grind that they put in was incredible. So yeah, overall it was just a great performance by them, and I hope that they continue to perform at this level the entire year. I don't want a rise situation to happen.
Yeah, completely agree with you, but I feel like they're going to be consistent. It is Boots.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going to have a much more consistent year than we're used to seeing. Let's throw up the final placements here on the screen right there. You can see TK, Splice, Optic, FaZe, Echo, E-United, Luminosity, Envious to round out the top 8, and not a very surprising top 8. All 8 of those teams are just really fantastic from top to bottom talent-wise. Then we move down to the 9 through 12. Mind Freak with a surprise showing, in my opinion, getting to that 9 through 12. Props to them. E6 looked pretty good. Dashy was an absolute monster from the couple of games I saw from him. His KD was quite nice. Seemed to just be completely dominant. I think he dropped to 20 in a Search and Destroy, which is insane, tying Crim's record for Search, and great performance from him. So I think that's a fair spot for E6. Ground Zero we touched on already, and Red Reserve, which I think have the potential to break into the top 8.
Yeah, I mean, the only surprising thing when you look at this is really so Echo Fox and FaZe. I mean, the fact that they both started from open, like to get both of these guys into the top 6 is incredible to me. I don't think we'll ever see anything like that again. 9 through 12, Mind Freak, I think that's a great showing from them. Rise was a surprising one for me. I thought they were a team that was going to do a lot more, and they just didn't. I'm not too sure what the issue was, but they just couldn't put it all together. I mean, I thought they were for sure going to get it out of their pool, and they didn't. They got beat by TK and Red Reserve. So I don't know, man. It's tough to see. I think you could sort of give the same excuse that we give Hugh to TJ, that they're still getting this roster together. But I would have liked to see them make a bit more of a losers run. I mean, they lost to E6. Dashi obviously had 20 kills, but I think that's a roster that a lot of people still have to keep their eyes on. But besides that, man, I think everything went pretty well. Obviously, you have Next Threat sneaking into the top 16, Unilad, which we always talk has the potential to play well. So, yeah, I mean, it was a great event overall. And really, besides a few surprising things, I think a lot of people, thought, a lot of these placings were going to come true. Yeah, the TJ's UAV obviously doesn't help either when they forfeit them out.
I can't believe. I think they had 2 UAVs on, which is hilarious. But TJ's the one that called it in. Way too funny. But man, just look like for prospective league teams.
Yeah,
it is stacked right now, bro. Like it's gonna be so hard for these a lot of teams to make up pro points to make the top 10 NA and then top 5 for the EU. Man. Just looking from top to bottom, all the way down to top, 24, even the teams in that area are quite strong as well. Just a competitive tournament, crazy.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's just what it comes down to is pro point qualification. I mean, when you kind of look at the top 24, like you have Millennium sneaking in there, Vitality 17 through 20, but especially for the North American guys, like there's just so many good teams right now. I still want to see a little bit better performance from some of the EU guys. Again, I think Red Reserve can do it. I think Unilad has the potential to, but I want that 4th or 15. Hopefully, Vitality. They had some good games. They beat Luminosity, which I don't think a lot of people expected in groups. So I certainly didn't. So they had some very close games. The potential for them is to get better. Millennium actually lost to Vitality in a game 5, which. That's a bit surprising to me, but hopefully, again, with the comeback of Gunchi, hopefully they can sort of get in that top 5 spot.
For sure. So, yeah, that's it for the final placements. Teams doing quite well, some overperforming, some severely underperforming. I guess the last thing we can talk about before we take some questions from you guys is we can talk about some standout players or disappointment players.
Oh, all right, let's go through this list. TK, I would probably say most of them were pretty standout.
Yeah.
Trying to see Splice, Tommy for sure. Optic, I don't have like one player specifically that
they took turns.
Yeah, right. Like
turns
there
being
wasn't
bad.
like player like, all right, this guy was the best that tournament.
Right.
Like sometimes typically it was Formal or Scump. Champs, was Crim at points. So yeah, I don't. I just think it's a disappointing. It's disappointing for like it's crazy to think about. Like if anybody else but Optic gets third, like you say, all right, that's a great tournament. Like
Yeah.
they played solid, but
Right.
just with these four, and I think of the expectations coming into the tournament after winning 3 out of 4, they believe they should have won all 4 of the 2Ks.
Yeah.
Not what you expected at all, just from the guys on these rosters. Yeah, you're right. Like it did feel like they were just switching off. There wasn't that standout player. Like the only thing that really stands out to me is like the clutch plays from Cram and S&D,
Definitely.
Formal Sniper, but yeah, it's weird when obviously they're not winning. FaZe, I think they all played well to get this performance, but I think replays.
Reap's a beast, bro.
Yeah, I mean
Reap's
he
a
played
beast,
extremely
bro.
well. He just seems in control. Like they seem to be on point. Obviously their CTF was perfect. So Echo Fox, I think Gunless and Saints played really, really well, and it's weird because they use Gunless and Saints to. That's why they like playing Gibraltar, because it allows Gunless and Saints to roam the map a lot more when they get set up, and I think that's just what they love to do. So I think those two played pretty well.
For sure. Gunless surprised me. I knew he was going to be good, but I thought he'd have some sort of a drop-off going from jetpacks over towards boots, but he proved me wrong. He had multiple games with a sub where he's just absolutely shredding. I think him and Saints tandem, like you said, is going to work out very, very well throughout the rest of the year, and I feel like Vicento seemed like he was doing pretty damn good with an AR as well, along with Assault. So well-rounded roster. We knew they were going to do well. We weren't sure how well they were going to do, but top 6, I think that's a great finish for them.
Yeah, absolutely. E United, I think RC's played pretty well as a main AR, and really the main sniper. He had some great shots with that. I mean, I think Clay stats-wise, previously probably wasn't his best performance stats-wise, but
yeah,
what he was trying to do for this team, he was trying to do a lot. When they were playing well, the Twins were playing well, and that is sort of been the key to United's success. I mean, if the Twins do good, they do good. So
for sure,
as soon as their gameplay starts to drop off, because obviously their pressure allows Clay and Silly to perform even better. So I'd like to see them sort of step it up in those closer games. LG, I didn't watch too much of. I'm not sure if you did. It was very
really
weird. I really didn't.
Didn't really get a chance to.
They were just like handling business, and then all of a sudden they lost 2 games in a row.
Right. You got knocked out real quick. I'll have to go back and watch the VODs.
Yeah, definitely. NV Slasher was just clearly standout. Really yeah.
Temp was pretty damn solid with a sub too. His roaming was really solid. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's about it for me. I mean, we could go on forever.
Yeah, of course. I'm sure we could go down and pick and choose from each roster. But chat, I want your best player and worst player throughout the entire CWL Dallas. Go.
Wow.
Go. We're putting people on blast and praising them at the same damn time. And we'll do some questions too once you guys are done answering that.
Let's see. Worst Scump? What? Best Kenny. All right, I respect that. Best player Chino. Best player Replays. Spacely worst. Yeah, a lot of Spaceleys. Yeah, it sucks, Ghost, man, because
Ghost was just having a rough one.
Yeah, I think that's a team I just got a feeling that team will make a roster change. I think that's I don't know, man. That just seems very disappointing for all the resources that they put into this. Like they've literally had everything they could ever ask for.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of Kenny's, Slasher, Tommy, Replays.
Reap's getting some love, baby. I love it. I love it so much.
Thanks, Phil. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, Phil.
Dashy the Goat. Yeah, I'm excited to see that E6 roster. I think with a bit more experience and putting it all together, that team can be very tough to beat.
Alrighty. Let's do a few minutes of questions, and we'll call it a day.
Yeah, Teep and I. Sorry, guys. Teep and I are both on the struggle bus.
Oh yeah, I'm sick. We're both tired. Sorry, we're kind of.
I can't remember half the games.
I'm low energy today. I'm trying my best here though.
Do you see Mind Freak breaking top 4 this year?
Top 4.
That's tough.
That's so hard, bro.
I would say top 8. I would give him a top 8.
Yeah.
I don't think top 4 yet.
Like, they should have beat Echo Fox. So that would have been their top 8 right there. So I think that's completely, feasible for them to do. Top 4 though, man, it's really, really tough. It's so stacked.
Why did OG not veto Force Hardpoint and Doc CTF for Splice in the second series?
Ego, purely.
Yeah. I think it's just like, it's one of those things. Like, I talked about it a lot on the desk, but all the VODs I've watched of like Optic in the 2K, they were dominating Forest.
So
like
good
that was
Forest,
that was their best map coming into the tournament. And what they're probably just saying to one another is, all right, if someone else steps up and gets the kills that they typically do, like, we're gonna win. Like,
yeah.
So I think it was just just how comfortable they were on those specific maps.
I think it was a shock for them. They've never been streaked like that before. So I think they weren't really sure of what to do when they, would set up for a hard point, get streaked out, always be on the back foot for, an entire map. So I feel like they probably don't get too many reps practicing from behind online because they're usually just stomping people out in the 2Ks. So when it came to a real tournament situation, a bit of panic set in. The face smashing happened, and one of the biggest things that you shouldn't be doing on boots is feeding. And they fed more streaks than probably any other team. So it's just things like that they need to work
on. Yeah. Let's see. More. I mean, I see a lot of people asking about maps. I mean, like, the fact of the matter is, again, even without vetoes, I still think you'd see a lot of the same maps being played. There's just not that many maps.
Yeah.
Again, there's only 9 in this game. 10 if you count quarantine or whatever it's called. I don't think Aachen plays pretty well.
No.
We obviously can't play Gustav, so we're already down the last 2. The one beta map with all the bunkers. What the heck is it? I can't think of the name of it. And then there's one more as well. So I think the maps we have right now, I don't think we can implement any more. I think potentially we could see like Gibraltar S&D. I know a lot of people are like, well, now that we don't have FMJ banned, we can see Gibraltar come back. Flak Tower S&D, I mean, potentially, but
that might play well.
Potentially, right?
I don't know.
I'd have to see the bombs. I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you either. No idea.
Flak Hardpoint? I don't think so. I don't know.
Probably not.
Point to Hawk. Yeah, no, I don't think.
No.
Point to Hawk would play pretty well. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. We'll see what happens.
Who do you guys have taking the NA Invitational? Oh yeah, so Optic and TK aren't going to that, right?
Correct.
So do we know who's taking TK's spot?
I am not sure.
Okay. So I guess we need to wait and see for that first.
Yeah, I think that's something we can, that's good content for the next show. But going into it,
we'll talk about that next week. Yeah.
I think the top 2 teams you probably look at now are probably LG and E United.
You would think so, yeah. Can LG bounce back? Rise is taking their spot. Okay.
Echo Fox playing with Gunjar. Gotcha. So yeah, we shall see. Yeah, I think it's just like a double elimination bracket.
Yeah, that'll be some good content, some more games to see on some of these teams next week.
And it sucks too because I felt like, again, we talked about this with TK. Like if TK goes this and they win it and they keep that momentum going,
yeah,
that would have been huge for them.
definitely.
Woody really wants us to discuss Era.
Era got smoked.
I don't even know where Era placed, but I know they dropped Havoc already, so there was obviously some issues.
Right. I wonder, like, you think it's Dito the one's calling all the shots, like roster change wise, or like is he like the
potentially? Yeah.
I didn't really see how
top 64. Yeah, that's not too good.
Yeah, they got smoked. I didn't really see how Rallied played either.
Wonder
But yeah,
who they lost to.
top 64. Damn.
Let's see. Where did Era lose in the Open?
Yeah, who they lose to? That's pretty quick. Lost 2-0 to Giants, the Spanish team.
Was that in losers they lost?
It must have, yeah.
Yeah, they lost 2-0 to Giants in losers, and in winners they lost 2. I don't even think they have winners round 4. I don't even think they made it to round 4. Nope, they didn't. Who the hell did they lose to? Sheesh.
Yeah, who'd they lose to first, chat? Do you guys know? Yeah, I know they had to lose twice. They lost to Giants and who?
I don't even see them up to round 4.
Lost to Nihil. Oh, okay.
You guys want us to touch on proof? Oh, they lost to Lyric and Demise's team. Okay.
Okay.
What happened with proof? Can someone explain? Teep, do you know?
Just some controversy on Twitter today.
All right, let's talk about it. I love that.
Okay, let's pull up the tweets real quick.
All right.
Let's start with proofs. All right. Okay. So it started off with proof saying, "Can we make a black list of kids that go hard in GBs and just make sure they never go pro?" Laughing emoji. Crying laughing emoji. So so he's saying, like, why do these kids go so hard in GB matches?
All right, so I imagine he's probably joking or being a little sarcastic with like a little truth in there. Like, he's probably mad that these GB guys are playing when he just wants to earn his points, and it is what it is. From my point of view, when I was, when I was an amateur I wanted to play pros as much as possible. So I think that's sort of the point of the pro point ladder. It's that you can play anyone, and it gives you the opportunity to play against better people than you. So yeah, it's obviously very controversial because pro players just want to earn their GB points, get on with the day.
Yeah.
Where there's other kids who want to continue to get better.
What are my thoughts? Let me think
that's about it
for a second. It's like, it's not the player's fault. Like, yeah, I guess the argument would be, should the quote unquote pros be having to play against the lesser players? I guess is the higher argument. But in this topic, proof isn't one of those. So if another player made this claim, I think it holds more weight.
Yeah, I mean that's
or
tough
he,
too,
or
right?
he was just joking,
64.
or he was just joking, and he was just like was fucking tired this day and didn't feel like going dumb hard into GB.
Yeah.
So I think people are taking it a little bit too serious. I don't know, but if that's the higher level argument, I guess.
Yeah, it is what it is.
I don't know. If you want to go dumb hard in GBs, go dumb hard in GBs.
Yeah,
if you don't, then don't. I don't care. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you got to get some motherfucking pro points.
Yeah, kids want to play their idols, man. That's just what it is. You know, like
my only thing I'll say is like don't blame the blame the players. I guess if they want to try, then try. Whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, other people chimed in and made it a little drama happen, and like Jack got involved. people saying like they didn't like the tweet, but it seemed like I don't know. I don't really care that much.
It's not a big deal.
It's just Twitter. I think
kids want to play. Kids want to play, and make a point to like. I'm sure the same shit happens to Teep and I. Like,
yeah, if
I get into a ranked play game, like kids are gonna go hard. Like,
I was playing ranked play today, and people are freaking talking crap to me, and I was like, okay, nice work
and whatnot.
Nice, so, dude.
Is what it is. People wanna get on the radar, and GBs is an avenue to do it. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
All right, I'm dead.
Yeah. All right. Good show. Sorry we're low energy. It was just a long weekend. Like I said, I've had a fever all day trying to be as entertaining as possible for you guys. But we got the show done. We're going to have another one next week. It's probably talking about the event that's going on with the Invitational. So we'll have some more stuff to go over, some more insight on these teams on LAN once again, which is pretty cool to see. I know a lot of you guys feel a certain way about the event itself and how fair it is, quote unquote. But we're not going to talk about that. We're just going to talk about the content, and that's the gameplay. That's what we're here to do, and that's what a Hardpoints is all about. Let's all stay positive. We all love Call of Duty, and the more Call of Duty that we can watch together and talk about, the better. Right, chat? Okay, cool. I'm glad we agree.
Thanks, chat.
Chat, we love you. I'm going to run a quick ad break.